Surgito. Dun, 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 dun. Hello, my fellow Harry Potter fans. Welcome to my review of the second film in the Harry Potter prequel series, Fantastic Beasts. Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald, directed by David Yates and released in 2018, 2 years after the first one. So, The Crimes of Grindelwald, or The Crimes of Grindelwald, depending on how you say the name. We'll just call it Crimes of Grindelwald. It's easier that way. So, Fantastic Beasts: The Crimes of Grindelwald. This movie gets a lot of hate. Yes, a lot of the Wizarding World fandom don't like this movie. What do I think of it? Well, stay tuned in the review to find out more. Right, so the plot of The Crimes of Grindelwald is basically everybody is heading to Paris because they're trying to find out the identity of Credence. Queenie is going there to fix her relationship with Jacob. Tina is going after Credence. Newt is going after Tina. Jacob is joining Newt on the quest. There's also another guy going after Credence called Yusuf Karma. He's going there because of things that happened in the past. And basically all of this, culminates in a big move to Paris and Grindelwald rallying his followers to prepare for a wizarding war. Meanwhile, we also see Jude Law as Albus Dumbledore. He is basically trying to say to the Ministry that he cannot fight Grindelwald because of a previous blood pact that was made between them, in which they vowed to never fight each other no matter how bad things got. So that's the basic gist of this movie. I'm not going to go further into detail because it's kind of complicated. And it's kind of all over the place, really, let's be honest. The Crimes of Grindelwald, this movie is tossed around a lot by the fans. It's definitely dismissed the most. It's certainly a film that I've kind of struggled to grasp a lot of the time when I've been watching it over the years. I mean, when I first saw this movie back in 2018, I thought that it was decent, it was fine, but I didn't think it was anything special. Over the years, I've actually changed my opinion quite a lot on this film. I think my opinion of the film has gone kaput. I don't hate this film, but for me, The Crimes of Grindelwald, this is easily the worst movie of the Wizarding World films. All 10 of them, well, soon to be 11 of them. All of the ones I've seen so far, this is the worst one. This movie is fucking okay. It's just mediocre. For me, it all boils down to the script, and I know a lot of people have already said this. I think for me, it starts with the fact that they got J.K. Rowling. Of course, it's her vision, her world, fair enough, her universe. But the fact is, she's a novelist, and for her to go from novelist to screenwriter, I don't think she quite understands the way that a film is written compared to the way a book is written. Now, I think if she'd had a co-writer working on the story with her, the film probably wouldn't have felt so muddled and so crammed. This movie feels like it's trying to cram everyone in the kitchen sink in there. There are a shit ton of people in this movie that probably just don't need to be there. There's just too many people going to Paris for too many different reasons, and it's very hard to keep up with who's going there for what reason. Like, we have the 4 main characters from the first film, like Newt, Tina, Queenie, and Jacob. Like I've said, Queenie is having relationship problems with Jacob because she's a magical person and he's not, and they can't get married. This is very much a Romeo and Juliet situation here. And she ends up siding with Grindelwald because she feels it's the only way to save her relationship. Tina's going after Credence to, because she has to, and help him find out his identity. Newt is going after Tina because he is in love with her, and Jacob joins him because he's in love with Queenie. So, yeah, those are the main characters, and, aside from that, we've also got Yusuf Karma. Like I said, Yusuf is Lita Lestrange's brother, and he's going after Credence because he feels he has to kill him. And then Lita Lestrange is also introduced, and admittedly, Zoe Kravitz, who's probably the best performance of the movie, she's really good. But the character, there's a lot of time devoted to her and her backstory in Hogwarts, which is actually nice. It's nice to see Hogwarts back. And we get to see how she ended up bullying quite a few people, and then she became a bit of an outcast, and then she committed a very selfish act by the baby swap thing. And then we also have Nagini, who's introduced in this movie, but she's a human who can transform into a snake. She's not quite an animagus, they call her a maledictus, so eventually she's cursed to become a snake permanently at a later point. I don't know if they were supposed to add her as a love interest for Credence, to make his story somewhat more tragic, but I don't know. There's also another guy who's sort of works for the Ministry, but then sort of works for Grindelwald. He's kind of going after Credence as well. So you can already tell that this movie is becoming a very bloated mess. Granted, there are parts in this film that I do like. It is entertaining in areas, but the storytelling is all over the shop. It's kind of a mess, to be honest. When you look at the whole structure of the story, it feels almost bloated. It's because the fact is, Fantastic Beasts is now a 5-part film series. Initially, it was going to be a trilogy. So God only knows how it would have been if this movie was the second of 3 movies. Because, man, this movie felt so crammed. It felt like they kind of overstretched the narrative a lot and just threw in more characters just for the sake of it. This movie just has a very dull pace. The pace of it is so slow, and it goes on, and it doesn't really go anywhere. The whole film may as well have been called Fantastic Beasts, Who the Hell is Credence? You know, that should have been the title, because literally that's all the film is. There is no deep, evocative plots. There are individual subplots, but I don't think you can have this film be, a narrative based on loads of little subplots. The main thread of the narrative is who is Credence, and of course, by the end of the film, that question is, well, kind of answered, but we will get further explanation behind that in the next film, The Secrets of Dumbledore. So I just feel like the movie should have kind of stuck to one narrative, and it shouldn't have kind of spiraled off into different tangents. It feels like this movie went on to different tangents. Moreover, this movie has a real lack of action, which also affects the pace. And the action sequences that are there, they're probably some of the weakest in the series, if I'm going to be perfectly honest. That being said, though, the opening of this film is awesome. The opening of this film is fantastic, no pun intended. The way that Grindelwald escapes the prison is pretty spectacular, I have to admit, and it's probably the best action scene in the film. The finale action scene is quite good when Grindelwald is rallying his followers and then everybody's trying to fight him and they're fighting the massive blue water fire dragon, or sorry, whatever it is at the end. And also the sequence when they escape the French Ministry of Magic, that's kind of entertaining, that's kind of fun. I like that. The other action sequences are not very good. There's a sequence when Credence goes to visit the little woman who was a maid when Credence was a baby, and then she's killed. There's a sort of obscurial action sequence where Credence lets out his emotions and the building kind of explodes and then goes back and then doesn't. I'm not explaining it very well, but you'll understand when you watch the movie. It's not really particularly engaging. It's about like the circus action sequence. I don't even know if you can call it an action scene because not much happens. Credence releases some little creatures and they go flying off. Tina casts one spell here and there. She looks around, chases someone, and then they're like, right, let's pack it up. It just has this really dull, slow momentum. It takes forever to get going, and it doesn't really have a consistent pace, to be honest. I mean, don't get me wrong. The cast are really good, like Eddie Redmayne as Newt Scamander. He is good, and he is a little bit better, actually, in this film. He's not so mumbly, but I did like him in the first one, to be fair. Alison Sudol as Queenie is very good. Katherine Waterston as Tina. Dan Fogler as Jacob is also very good. As for Johnny Depp, and obviously now we know that it's his final performance as Grindelwald. I mean, heck, he didn't really get much of a chance to perform in the first one. It's kind of Colin Farrell playing Grindelwald. But I like Johnny Depp. I thought he did a good job with the role. I thought he was quite sinister with what he had, and I liked the fact that he was... they wrote Grindelwald quite well, the way he's such a manipulator, unlike Voldemort, who just hates everything and he's not conceived out of love. Grindelwald actually is very cunning. And I think in some ways he's a bit better than Voldemort because he's more deceptive and he actually he knows what to say to people and he uses words to his advantage. I just think the look of Johnny Depp's Grindelwald is a bit over the top. The way they make him look kind of like a rock star, it just doesn't work. It looks kind of ridiculous in a lot of areas. And I know that Mads Mikkelsen's look is going to be way different in the new one, judging from those trailers. So yeah, it's going to feel like a different character, much like how it felt with Dumbledore. Of course, the Dumbledore recasting in Harry Potter was far different and under far different circumstances, which were exceptional circumstances, which we have to obviously forgive. This, I mean, I don't agree with the fact that they fired Johnny, but that's another story for another video. Jude Law as Dumbledore, though, pretty damn good. I mean, yes, he doesn't get a lot to do, but there are going to be more films, and obviously the next film, The Secrets of Dumbledore, is probably going to give him a lot more to do. But I liked his interactions with Newt and Lita, and going back to Hogwarts and seeing him teach was kind of nice. And yeah, seeing Hogwarts again, you could argue that was fan service, but you know what, to be honest, there wasn't much else going on, so I quite like the fact that we went back there. This movie is just so talky. Everybody's standing around and talking, and there's not much going on. I just don't feel like there's enough of a narrative for, this movie. It feels like almost, the leftovers, or the, or kind of epilogue to the first film. It's like Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them Part Two. It's not its own thing. I mean, yeah, again, individual good bits in it, but not enough to go, oh wow, that's good. Yeah, and again, it's hard to really care about all these characters because there's so many of them. I mean, the beasts themselves are kind of nice. It's nice to see some new creatures in there. I'm not going to go through all of them by name, partly because I can't remember them, but also there's too many to describe. But it's nice to see the Nifflers back and the Bowtruckle back. There are some cool beasts. I mean, the Zoo is probably my favourite, the new ones. Although the Kelpie is quite a nice design. I do think the Zoo is awesome, especially when they escape the Ministry in that action sequence. That's pretty fun. I just think David Yates kind of dropped the ball here with his direction. I mean, I think he certainly tries, but I think ultimately the script lets him down. I don't think he's able to make much out of this, and there's certainly some emotional moments, like when Newt is saying to Tina how she has salamander eyes when he's sort of confessing his love to her, which is nice. And the moment when Queenie actually changes sides, she sides with Grindelwald, and Jacob calls her crazy. There's some nice emotional drama that's going on in this film, but I think that's the problem with this one. There's just too much going on, and it needed to be simplified. I think certain characters you really could have scrapped from this film, and you could have had a bit more of a pace to it, because my God, does this film drag. It is very slow and very monotonous, almost kind of tired, really. But at the same time, there are some enjoyable scenes in it, and it is worth watching once. I think maybe worth watching if you want to watch the whole series, but I wouldn't watch it on a rainy day, let's put it that way. Although, James Newton Howard's score for the film is incredible. The score is absolutely fantastic, pun intended. And I love such tracks, especially the one which is Spread the Word. Like at the end, when all the emotional stuff is going down, it's nice to hear some emotional music like that. Also, speaking of fan service, Nicholas Flamel makes a cameo appearance in this film, which is quite nice, and we do get to see the Philosopher's Stone. So there are some good callbacks and some nice moments to Harry Potter, and some nice preludes to the next film. And as for Ezra Miller, I mean, his performance is okay in the film. He doesn't get a lot to do, really, when you think about it. I mean, he's trying to find out who he is, and his performance, again, he's playing someone who's quite depressed and insecure, doesn't really know who he is, and he's being totally manipulated by Grindelwald. And then the ending is really bizarre, because thinking about the Harry Potter lore and the Dumbledore story, it's kind of strange to have the reveal that Credence is Aurelius Dumbledore, Albus's brother. Yeah, that was kind of weird, because I'd always thought that Albus only had Ariana and Aberforth as a brother and sister. Of course, the next film, The Secrets of Dumbledore, is going to, well, hopefully, it's going to resolve that and kind of give us an explanation behind that. But yeah, it's kind of weird. I mean, yes, you can argue Grindelwald might be bullshitting, but at the same time, the Phoenix did the thing at the end, and he was able to use the wand that was given to him by Grindelwald. So yeah, it seems pretty legit. But God, for 4 years, this twist has really puzzled me, and I really hope that it comes to some kind of conclusion, or it comes to some further development, because yeah, I'm kind of perplexed. I was really perplexed by the ending. So The Crimes of Grindelwald, it's not a bad movie. I mean, it's kind of all over the place, really. The story is very uneven. There's no question about that. And in regards to the baby swap thing, Lita Lestrange, I mean, again, I know they're trying to make her a tragic character, and Zoe Kravitz does a good job, and certainly her sacrifice at the end, makes her character probably one of the most developed characters in the film. But the reason behind the baby swap just seems to come out of nowhere. The fact that she was tired of Corvus crying, and the fact that she was selfish enough to switch the babies, and then I know she didn't intentionally want to murder her little brother, but what? It kind of came out of nowhere to me. I just didn't buy that, to be honest. So overall, The Crimes of Grindelwald, yeah, it's not the best movie of the franchise. It's far from it, and it's a real shame Johnny Depp has to go out with this one. But there are some good things in it, and I suppose for completion's sake, it's worth having and it's worth seeing. But I hope that there are better movies in this series yet to come. So I'm going to give The Crimes of Grindelwald a 5 out of 10. Yeah, sorry, not a good one. So, that is it, folks. We are now up to date with the Wizarding World reviews. Thank you very much all for watching my re-reviews of Potter and my re-reviews of Fantastic Beasts. Stay tuned next time when I review the latest film, The Secrets of Dumbledore. So until then, thank you very much all for watching. Please hit the like and subscribe button for more future content. So until then, I'm Mr. Sardis11, Mischief Managed.